So, welcome to our social media marketing update for January. This is the first of our monthly social media updates for 2026. As usual, we'll be bringing you all of the latest social media news, updates, features, strategies, and some cool campaign ideas as well. Lovely to have you with us. We will be opening the floor to Q&A at the end of today's session, but for now, I'll get straight to it. So, if you're joining us for the first time today, my name is Alison. I've been working in the social media industry for almost 16 years now, which is pretty crazy. I've worked with a really wide range of brands and businesses you can see here, both here in the UK and across Europe and America as well. So, if you do have any questions specifically about your social media strategies, then please don't hesitate to ask or get in touch. And I'll be sharing my contact details with you all at the end of today's session. As well as running our monthly social media updates, just to let you know, we do have a very busy workshop schedule ahead for 2026. Our aim is to help you all do social media better and upskill you in all of the latest knowledge and insights in the industry. So you can see we've got a lot of workshops coming up this year. We do one expert-led workshop a month, which is completely open for anybody to join. These workshops are paid for, but if you're an Avocado Social member, then they're completely free to you as well. So you can see we're covering all bases from meta ads to TikTok to strategy to Reels. Lots of advertising in there, as well as getting your social media Christmas ready as well, for those of you that are wanting to join that later on in the year when you're ready to think about Christmas once again. So if you're interested in becoming a member, then you can find out all details around that by scanning the QR code on screen now. And as part of your membership, we have different tiers, but the entry level membership, which is our core membership, gives you access to any of those workshops completely as part of that subscription. So you can join a couple of them or you can come to all of them, and you can find out more about that on the screen now. As always, it's been a busy few weeks in social media, and so we've picked our top 10 social media updates that you need to know about. And we've put them together here. You can see them on screen right now, but I'm going to take us through each of those with lots of examples in just a moment's time. We tried to cover all bases on our update. So we know that some of you are joining who are more B2B. So maybe you're more concerned about LinkedIn or perhaps YouTube, maybe Threads, Reddit, or X. And then we know that there's a lot of B2C people in the room as well. So we cover a lot of Instagram. Instagram, I think, has one of the most frequent updates of all the platforms. So they are always updating and bringing out new features. TikTok as well. And so we do share a lot around all of the different social media platforms, as well as some of the latest AI advancements as well, because of course that is so important to integrate as part of your process as a marketer in 2026 as well. So we're going to get started with the very first update. What the UK junk food ad ban means for marketers. So some of you may not be aware about this, but the UK has this week introduced a major ban on junk food ads online and on TV before 9 p.m. And the main reason for this is to reduce children's exposure to unhealthy food marketing. So this is going to reshape a lot of the marketing in which we see in social media, because this ban includes all social media and paid creator content. So by social media, I mean just the advertising side, so where you're paying for your ads to show. This new law will limit how brands can promote products which are high in fat, salt, and sugar. That's HFSS, and that this ruling is being known as the HFSS law or ruling. And this will be across TV and online ad platforms. So, under these new regulations, which came into play on Monday, adverts for HFSS products are banned from using paid advertising online at any time. So, that includes paid ads on socials and paid influencer content. So this is going to be a big change in what we see, particularly across, our favorite brands, our favorite kind of UK fast food brands, but it also will affect those who are promoting meals like fish and chips or ice cream or confectionery, maybe even some breakfast cereals and prepared meals as well, all of these products which are deemed to be major contributors to childhood obesity. So these sorts of ads you can see on screen now will be a thing of the past here in the UK. Now, this is a big change, and actually, it's quite interesting. I was having a little look around yesterday, and I was still seeing a lot of ads which featured HFSS products. So I think it's one of those rules which it will sort of start trickling in to play at the moment, but it is certainly in play right now. And if you are running a paid social post promoting a HFSS product, you are now at risk of enforcement action from the Advertising Standards Authority, which means that you would get a warning, you would potentially even get a fine if you do break the new rules. But what does this mean for food marketers? Well, it doesn't mean that you can't advertise and you can't use influencers. You can still promote these products in your organic socials, which is interesting. So you can still have pictures of pizzas, burgers, fish and chips, etc. on your organic feeds. You just can't do it in paid promotions. You could also still talk about some of the features and benefits of your brand from a brand marketing point of view, where you don't feature the product itself. And that is something that I expect a lot of corporate businesses will kind of go down the route of, particularly when you look at the likes of KFC, McDonald's, Pizza Hut. I think what we'll begin to see is much more of those lifestyle images or kind of creative that focuses on brand values rather than product placement. This is something that I've already seen happening across brands like McDonald's and Burger King. So if you look at some of their paid ads that have started running this week, they're not featuring the products. So they're not showing product shots, they're not showing taste tests or sponsoring any kind of taste tests from influencers. So essentially, what they are doing is using maybe corporate messaging or maybe quite playful messaging, which doesn't actually feature the product. If we look at McDonald's, they've just launched what they're calling their secret menu, which is a menu available within the app, which features some unusual or kind of interesting collaborations between their products. And that menu is secret unless you use and download the app. So I love the kind of play on the fact that you can't see the product here, which obviously adheres to the new rules. They keep the product within the brown paper bag. And as you'll see in the video right now, it feels very Traitors-esque. So I don't know if that also has had an influence on this campaign. Let's take a quick look now.
I repeat, I have a secret menu. I have a secret menu. I repeat, I have a secret menu. I have a secret menu. I repeat, I have a secret.
So it's all a bit cloak and dagger, which, yeah, I think is very clever if that was intentional to tie into the HFSS law or the Traitors new series. It's going to push creative focus towards brand values and lifestyle messaging much more than product placement. So it will be really interesting to see what food marketers can do this year to step around these new rules.
I repeat.
Okay, you may have seen this one over the last few weeks, particularly just before Christmas, but Instagram has introduced new limits on hashtag use. Now, we do know that Instagram has noted many times before that hashtags are no longer as important as they once were for content discovery. In fact, I've certainly been at a few social media events where highly respectable speakers in the room, or even people that work for the social media platforms, have said hashtags just don't work anymore and are dead. We predicted the death of hashtags in 2025, so that was one of our big trends for last year. And I do think that they are, slowly petering out of people's usage in social media. So Instagram has actually said that they are now going to limit posts to just 5 hashtags. Now, most of us aren't really using even 5 hashtags at all, but that's interesting to see that they are sharing this advice to creators on their creators' profile. So, what does this mean in terms of your strategy? Well, I certainly think hashtags can still be useful if you are looking to categorize your content. So, particularly from a reporting point of view, if you wanted to categorize all of the posts that you have done around a certain event or a certain campaign, then it is a good way of grouping these together and also then reporting on the total reach or total engagement on those particular posts, particularly if you're using a social media listening tool. But if you are using hashtags more for reach and discovery, they just simply don't work. People don't search for hashtags anymore in the way that we used to. They just search for keywords. And if all of the words in your caption are searchable anyway, which is the case now across all social media platforms, then there's actually no point adding in a hashtag. I think actually hashtags can make your posts sometimes look out of date because it is seen as a more traditional social media tactic as opposed to something that's more cutting edge. And I certainly would avoid using hashtags throughout your caption. If you are going to use them, tuck them in nicely at the end of your posts. Instagram has also said, as a final piece of advice, don't spam your caption with too many irrelevant or generic captions. For example, hashtag reels. This simply won't work at getting your content out to more people, and it could even cause the algorithm to downgrade your content as well. So this is a consideration. It's not something that's absolutely happening yet, but Meta is considering charging business pages to post links. So this is something that they're thinking about doing on Facebook, in specifically Facebook. They're conducting a limited test on Facebook that restricts certain business profiles to sharing only 2 organic links per month. Wow. So, particularly if you work in publishing or you're using Facebook as a main driver of traffic to your website, this could well be a major limitation to your strategies in 2026. They're essentially asking people to subscribe to Meta Verified in order to be able to share more links. So, this is their subscription service where you pay a monthly fee, and for that, you are able to use a couple of more pro features and benefits of Meta. It looks like this initiative is designed to increase their subscription revenue and potentially reduce the prevalence of low quality spam across the platform as well. Because if you are paying a subscription to be able to post links, the posts that you are sharing are probably going to be higher quality rather than spammy links. This test signals a significant shift towards a pay to play model, which is something we predicted as part of our 2026 social media predictions. We do think that these social media platforms are thinking about more ways to make revenue, and by keeping some of the best features aside for pro users, that is a way that they can encourage people to start to pay this monthly fee. To be clear, right now, this is a limited test. So it's not something that they have said is going to be rolled out across the board. But I think it's important to bear in mind that you may well be capped in terms of how many links you can share on Facebook. Let's take a quick look at the Meta verified subscription. So just to remind you, these are what the plans look like in terms of US dollars. For the subscription, you get a verified badge. So your profile gets that blue tick next to it. You also get enhanced support, and there are different levels of this. So, for example, if you pay for the business standard, which is actually something that we do at Avocado Social, you get 24/7 access to email or chat agent support. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's instant. You know, sometimes you can be waiting on that chat agent support for an hour before you get a response. Sometimes it can take a couple of days for somebody to get back to you on email. So it's not exactly fast. You can see as you move up through those subscriptions, the enhanced support gets a little bit more dedicated. But I have heard a lot of people say that even when you pay for the full whack Business Max, often your issues still take days to get resolved and sometimes don't get resolved either. So I'm not sure I feel that confident recommending the enhanced support. You also get a few other benefits like enhanced search optimization. For the Business Plus, you get the opportunity to put links in your reels, and you get 2 per month or 4 per month or 6 per month, depending on the level of subscription you're paying. So it's something that if you're thinking about, you could always trial the business standard and see if it does have an impact on your account. I've certainly recommended that anyone having issues with logins or admin access to a Meta platform uses the business standard in order to just get that inquiry off the ground with Meta. But it's certainly not a quick fix situation. It still takes a really long amount of time. If they do begin to add links on Facebook to this subscription offering, then I can imagine that that's potentially going to put a lot of businesses off using Facebook, you know, if they have to pay to post links. So I think it's something that Meta might have to tread very, very carefully around. So one of our predictions for 2026 was that Threads was going to become a really well-used platform this year. And so far, so good. The numbers are looking very strong on Threads. They're managing to gain a lot of ground in terms of new users, particularly with that tie-in with Instagram. It's really easy to get started on Threads. And lots of individuals are beginning to use it potentially as an alternative to platforms like X. Threads this month has started to test badges for highly engaged members. So they're beginning to reward and offer champion badges for members who have high follower counts within specific communities as well. So this is one of their new features to their communities offering, which is really about building these interest groups within Threads around particular topics, whether that be sports or business or tech. So they are a way that they can kind of promote more engagement within the app. When Threads initially launched communities to all of its users in October last year, they had around 100 topical interest groups that you could join, and it has now more than doubled this collection. So it's designed to help users align themselves to relevant discussions and hopefully use the app on a bit more of a regular basis. And now with these community champion badges, it aims to help users identify those leading voices in those discussion groups and provide champions with greater motivation to promote engagement in their areas of interest. So this definitely plays into the trend in 2026 that we are moving towards perhaps using fewer social media platforms, but when we are using them, we're using them very deeply. We're looking to join communities with people who have similar interests or similar motivations to us. And we're willing to spend more time investing in these communities by getting to know people within them and maybe investing with more original content rather than kind of mindlessly scrolling through a wider collection of social media sites. I'm really excited about Threads for this year. I've made a little commitment to myself that I'm going to get a little bit more involved in Threads. And actually, another new feature that they've allowed is a feature that they're calling Community Flair. So, Flair is a labeling system that allows group members to display specific elements of a topic they are most interested in, such as a favorite book, to display on their profile within book threads. Or, for example, if you were in a social media community, you could add your favorite social media platform in there. These flair options are established by community champions, and once selected by a member, the label appears on all their posts within that specific space. So it looks like they're really trying to make Threads much more of this kind of integrated community, perhaps even a replacement to something like Facebook groups, and really encouraging people to go quite deep within a topic and create a new kind of online community of friends and connections. I think I'm quite interested in using Threads this year more for a kind of founder-led perspective. Obviously, as a founder of a business, using my own voice is something that I want to do a little bit more of online this year because we know from an employee advocacy perspective, people do engage a lot more with personal voices rather than business ones necessarily. So, thinking about more ways you can use your employees is really important for this year. So, I'll keep you posted on how my Threads journey goes. But if you're using Threads too, then drop in your username and I'll give you a follow. Okay, so as usual, lots going on in the world of AI, and Google has recently added AI content detection tools to Gemini, its flagship AI product. So, Google has recently rolled out an option within the Gemini app that allows users to check if a video was created or edited using Google AI tools. Users can upload video files up to 100 megabytes or 90 seconds long and ask Gemini if the content was created using AI. The system will then scan for watermarks, which are invisible. They're called synth ID watermarks in both the audio and visual tracks to confirm the media's origins. So I think this is a pretty significant update. It's something that I think we're going to see more and more of this year as these kind of AI detectors. I think as a collective, we're all much more aware as to whether something is AI generated or not. And it sounds like the average consumer is becoming much more aware as well and is almost pushing against AI content too. So if it's done in quite a bland, predictable way, there is research to suggest that the average consumer doesn't necessarily like to see that or read that. And I get that. I mean, I'm the same. If I see a post or a video that it just looks so AI created, I do tend to switch off unless it's something that is really creative, really cool, and quite like, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of original as well. Like if it's something unique that I've never seen before that simply couldn't be created in real life, then I do tend to pay more attention to it. I certainly think that consumers appreciate honesty and transparency. So if you are using an AI generated piece of content, actually admitting that and saying this is an AI manipulation or has been created using AI, And that will become, I'm sure, um, eventually law or at least best practice to say when AI has been utilized. So I think this is interesting to see that Google has created this update. Users are becoming increasingly aware of sharing social media posts for fear of circulating fake AI content. And this tool will help alleviate the skepticism by offering a method to verify authenticity as well. So hopefully it will help combat fake news, deep fakes, and any inauthentic footage or manipulations that are being used to perhaps drive a political point or a news story. So I do think this is a really good kind of new feature from Gemini. So I'd like to see more of this from more social media sites. Now, I know many of you are focused on LinkedIn for 2026, and actually, helpfully, LinkedIn has recently shared some tips to boost in-app performance in 2026. So, LinkedIn's Vice President of Product Management recently answered the top feed questions of 2025 and shared some key insights into in-app performance for 2026. And these are the main takeaways. He said to optimize, she said, it's Gayanda Sachdeva, said to aim to publish between 2 and 5 posts per week. So anyone doing more than 2 or 5 posts per week is definitely outperforming there. Members who post twice weekly see up to 5 times more profile views, but posting more than once a day is discouraged as it may split your audience's attention. So no more than once a day. Content themes, you should focus on sharing real lived experiences, not lived experiences, rather than generic advice. So I personally really do engage with personal perspectives, kind of key lessons, learnings, unique career lessons, a bit of kind of informal business content that's maybe created behind the scenes. Those are the sorts of things that really capture my attention now on LinkedIn, not just kind of generic business advice with a stock image. Using AI as a tool, not a creator. So I think that's again a big trend of 2026. AI should not be replacing your content creation, but it should be used as a tool to help you sharpen ideas, brainstorm ideas, or help create content alongside your own marketing skills. Audiences do prefer human, authentic insights over AI generated text as well. So make sure you are not copy and pasting something directly from ChatGPT into LinkedIn. And video engagement. So, video content is a major driver of growth, generating 1.4 times more engagement than other formats. And it's 20 times more likely to be shared, according to LinkedIn. A text hook is recommended to help videos land more effectively. So that's interesting. I think, particularly in the UK, video on LinkedIn has had a little bit of a slower start to other areas like the US, where video has become incredibly important on LinkedIn. But I wonder whether that is going to change. And that's something that we've been advising our clients at Avocado Social to be prepared for the influx of video on LinkedIn this year, particularly video that's filmed from a phone. So vertical, full screen, portrait mode. And then algorithm clarifications, which I think is always important. Again, LinkedIn are saying hashtags are no longer impactful for post distribution and are only useful for search or personal tracking. Like I said earlier, on those data points, or maybe you just want to see, like, how many posts did I do about that campaign? So hashtags do not impact distribution, they have said. So no need to include them. If you still want to include them for other reasons, such as your own tracking or to help members search for them since they are clickable, you can continue to do so, but they will not help for distribution. I think that's, again, a really bold statement coming from LinkedIn. And I do think 2026, this is the time, if you're still using hashtags for reach and distribution, this is the time to ditch them. She also said when we look at video, these are some really good tips when it comes to creating video on LinkedIn. A strong first sentence, whether that's verbally or visually on screen, a clear point of view, and a simple narrative brings together people into the story and can go a long way in helping your content land. We want concise and easy to understand information and messaging, personal perspectives, stories, unique takes, and also asking questions. These tips are all useful and they are all from the LinkedIn Creation Tips page, which is on their help pages. And if anybody wants the link to that, we can share that with you. And that was reported in social media today as well. So good to see some useful tips coming from LinkedIn there. And yeah, I'm excited to see how video does kind of come into play on LinkedIn as a platform in 2026. Okay, so Reddit has overtaken TikTok in the UK, driven by search and Gen Z. So you may have heard kind of whisperings around Reddit becoming a really, really important platform over the last year. And it's the UK's fourth most visited social media platform, surpassing TikTok. It now reaches 3 in 5 British internet users, marking an 88% increase in reach over the last 2 years, according to Ofcom. So the platform's growth has mainly been fueled by changes to Google search algorithms, which now prioritize helpful forum content. So when you Google something, often Reddit will be in position 2, 3, 4, and it is quite eye-catching because often the thread in which they feature in the Google search results pages really does kind of meet your query. It often features exactly the same question that you've asked Google, or it kind of goes into more detail and makes it quite eye-catching in those SERPs. Additionally, licensing deals to train Google and OpenAI models have made Reddit a top source for AI generated answers. So, again, when you ask ChatGPT something, Reddit is often one of the most cited websites out there. And you'll see kind of the Reddit label in your ChatGPT results because they are also looking to seek kind of human real life advice from the platform. So users are increasingly turning to Reddit as an antidote for AI generated content because it often has authentic opinions. It's often got some really good advice and helpful tips within it. It's often very like raw and unedited. It's, written just as somebody would kind of verbally update. So it's got, spelling mistakes, it's got weird formatting a lot of the time. And so that's seen as like very authentic to users. I certainly use it a lot for kind of advice around things like travel, parenting, renting, or kind of saving money, financial tips, etc. So there's lots and lots of kind of juicy content within there. And I think now that we are seeing it appear much more in search algorithms means that it has become this incredibly important site. One of the things that Reddit is doing this year, which we have spoken about in our updates before, is they have been widely expanding their advertising platform. There are a lot of new advertising formats that you can utilize in Reddit. I haven't actually done any Reddit ads yet, but I've been speaking to a few companies that have, and the feedback I've had is that it is very cost effective to get reach within Reddit, particularly if you're advertising something where there is an active Reddit community around that industry or that topic. So it's certainly one to think about for your social media strategies for 2026. and investigate more of. I think it's really interesting as well to see that the government now has presence within Reddit as well. So they've recognized the site's influence, and the UK government has launched an official account to discuss issues like the cost of living. They've also begun hosting these very popular AMAs, which are Ask Me Anything sessions, which have kind of always been like a well-known feature of Reddit. Um, Something that a couple of our clients do is these AMAs with kind of people that are working behind the scenes on projects. Also, we've seen a massive increase in engagement with sports. The Premier League subreddit has grown by over 1 billion views in the last year. And obviously, with the World Cup this year, it's going to become a key
Yeah.
hub for fashion. Sorry, I don't know if anyone was trying to ask a question there. I just heard some voice. So let me know if you want to ask any questions in the chat. That is all good. So yeah, definitely a platform to consider. And if you haven't considered Reddit yet, then I would certainly do a little bit of research around who in your industry is already using it, whether there are any threads and forums that are actually happening on Reddit that are aligned to what your business does, and what the kind of sentiment around those are, whether they're positive, negative, or whether it is potentially a place where people are sharing negative insight. And then also obviously think about your resource and time availability, because you can't be on every social media platform. So you really do have to make sure that you've got enough time to dedicate to trying out a new platform in 2026 if you feel there is an opportunity there. Something that I'm asked about all the time in social media is what's the new app on the horizon, or, what's the next big thing in social media? And it caught my attention this week that Twitter and Pinterest founders have launched a new app which they are positioning as an antidote to social media. So you can see here that one of Twitter's founders, Biz Stone, along with his friend Evan Sharp, who was Pinterest co-founder, have launched a new project called Tangle. It's a social network for living more on purpose. It's still invite only for now, which definitely feels like the way in which these social media platforms get launched. Remember, Blue Sky was invite only for ages. But you can get on the wait list and we can add you. So he shared this message, and I think this was on LinkedIn. And in order to, this new app called Tangle, is being positioned to counteract the negative psychological impacts of modern digital platforms. So this new application called Tangle, which is being developed by Bizstone and Evan Sharp, is invite only and encourages users to replace mindless scrolling with intentional living by tracking personal goals and encouraging mutual support. So it is in startup format at the moment. They've just secured significant funding to build tools that prioritize human meaning over conventional social media engagement metrics. And they're describing themselves as an antidote to the terrible devastation wrought by social media. So, what is it? Essentially, instead of traditional posts, as we all know and understand in social media, this app will be more around reflecting on how they pursue personal goals. You're meant to share your goals or intentions with friends to facilitate mutual support, and then you capture the reality of your days along the way. So the current experimental version sends users a morning notification asking, "What is your intention for today?" So there's a few kind of interesting plays there. I think definitely with this kind of daily notification where you set the intention for the day, feels like early Twitter, where they used to say, "What's on your mind?" And that would help you to create content for the day. Maybe it also feels a little bit like Be Real, where you have got that daily alert notifying you to create a piece of content that day. I do like the way that it seems to be locked down with friends in a much more of a personal way. So rather than this kind of mass reach of becoming friends with everyone, the idea is that you keep your community very small and it feels very personal in terms of these goals that you are going to help reach. But I'm interested to see where this goes. And I really like both early days Twitter and Pinterest. So I think that they will certainly be building this app with safety and kind of purpose in mind. So we'll see how it goes and we'll certainly keep you posted. Now, when it comes to your social media strategies, it's important to note that social media follow accounts now matter less than ever before. So, when you're writing your strategies for 2026, if you haven't already done so, and you're thinking about those success metrics, which you are going to stick to, followers certainly shouldn't be in your kind of top position of success. In fact, a lot of people are saying that they're now meaningless. I still think followers do have a bit of a play in terms of that vanity figure, but also, they're very prominent, they're easy to find. And this is something that Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri shared in 2024. But he did say back then that it is important to understand that your followers does not impact how many views or likes that you get. And it certainly isn't an indicator of how the algorithm works. In fact, audiences are following less and less people. When stumbling across a piece of content, they consume it. They don't necessarily click follow on that brand or creator. They might send it to a friend, they might reply to the post, but they trust that the algorithm will bring the content back to their feeds or will bring similar content back to their feeds. They no longer need to click follow anymore. And that's why you've probably seen your follower numbers get incredibly harder and harder to grow over the last couple of years. Feeds are now almost entirely controlled by algorithms rather than follow accounts. And simply having a follower doesn't guarantee that they're going to see your posts. You also need to understand that platforms now distribute videos based on the content appeal and whether that content is going to appeal to people rather than follow accounts. So that's probably been one of the biggest shifts in social media over the last few years, how good the algorithms have got at recommending you content based on previous content you've engaged with. And it does make it difficult for businesses and creators to kind of prove their worth. But actually, I do think this is something I myself, uh, as a social media consultant, do tend to look at successful view counts as well as followers, and actually might take view counts much more of a genuine success metric rather than how many followers somebody has. Here's a great example. If you look at someone like Emily on Toast on TikTok, you can see she's got 27,000 followers, which doesn't seem that massive given that some of her videos have had millions of views. So the grated halloumi there has had 3.8 million views. So I think again, that's something that you do need to get your head around and hopefully help your wider business and leadership understand that followers does not mean success in 2026. And as our screens fill up more with AI generated synthetic content or slop, as we're calling it, users are losing trust in broader social platforms. They are rotating more towards smaller, real communities like Threads or Substack or WhatsApp communities, where they trust human interaction more than they trust vanity metrics. So I do think 2026 is the year that we kind of knock followers on the head and really understand that they just don't mean anything in terms of your success in social. So, the final update for today is the Instagram chief has outlined the challenges of AI generated content. So, in a long rant this week, Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri has shared his thoughts on the year ahead for Instagram. This was done in a text-based carousel of 20 slides. So, it is a very long rant which discusses the future of content with the key premise that authenticity is becoming infinitely reproducible. So, pretty scary. And he himself says that he is worried about the future of content, but that he is really saying the more original content that you can create, the better, because it means that um, it's harder for AI to create something or replicate something that is so unique to you and so personal to you. You can read the whole post on Instagram. We'll share a link to it in just a moment. But he's essentially warned that AI will soon make authenticity infinitely reproducible, creating content so realistic that it will be indistinguishable from human work, even replicating raw, unpolished aesthetic creators. Um, and the aesthetic creators currently use to prove that they are real. So the bar is shifting from can you create to can you make something that only you could create? He also said that the primary way people now share is via DMs, blurry photos, and shaky videos of daily experiences. This raw aesthetic has bled into public content and across art forms. So that is something to consider, is that you have to almost evolve the way in which you create content to prove to audiences that it is authentic and that it is real. And I was watching a video yesterday on TikTok where somebody was saying they were trialing the difference between filming using a tripod and lighting and doing it in a slick way versus just holding their phone filming walking down the street. And the shaky holding of the phone performed better because it was deemed more or unpolished, more authentic, more real. And so consumers were much more likely to watch that video in its entirety. So that is also something you have to consider now when it comes to content creation for social media, is how trustworthy is your content? How real is it? And are you sharing stuff that it would be almost impossible for AI to replicate because it is so uniquely you? So it's getting harder, I must say, to create content that is going to work on social media platforms, particularly when you're battling AI generation tools. I really liked this comment though from social media strategist Sharon McKinstry. I feel like I always maybe say her name wrong, but she's a brilliant person to follow on Instagram if you don't already. She said, I'll say what I've been telling my clients in 2026. Authentic content isn't about oversharing beyond what you're comfortable with. It's about creating what isn't already everywhere. AI can write captions and create content, but what it can't do is live your life or have your own unique experiences. That's the advantage now. We have got to go back to basics and share our lived experiences and opinions and perspectives and be 1,000% authentic. And the successful creators out there aren't wondering what to post, they're living their life and creating content around it. They're sharing their thoughts, opinions, journeys, etc. So if content feels forced, that's a sign to regroup. And I thought that was brilliant advice, particularly for those of you who are going more down the employee advocacy or content creator route for 2026. As always, we like to end our sessions with a couple of cool posts and campaigns that we've seen. And this was one of the ones that we really thought was a fantastic campaign for 2026 from Heineken. Let's take a quick look.
Hey, how are you? I wanted to tell you something. Hold on. Wait, what was I going to say? I've forgotten. So the other day I was walking in the street and I went into the supermarket to buy a few things, by the way.
Anyway, sorry for the long voice note, but I have to tell you about one.
Having a little walk on my lunch break.
I couldn't remember my password, so I tried with my cat's name.
Absolutely love that from Heineken. And I'm sure you can all relate to being on the other end of a very long voice note. So now you can get a free beer. What else has been in our feeds this week? Well, we've definitely been spotting a lot of these kind of ins and outs for 2026. Actually, I shared one this morning on LinkedIn. So, what to leave in 2025 and what to bring to 2026. So, I really like the examples from Mind charity. You could also do this from a personal perspective. So, this is Kristen Sesto, who I follow on LinkedIn, who's an influencer marketing expert in the B2B space. Also seen this done as a kind of Apple note from Boots UK. So I still think, even though we're kind of, well into January, we're on the 8th of January now, had to look at the date there. I still think it's worth doing one of these just to kind of set your intentions for the year, and they're still being responded to really well in social media. So have a little think about what makes sense for either you personally to share or for your business or brand to share, that maybe, is done in a useful, valuable, and relevant way to your brand.